Hello folks, this is Jesse Bryant here with another video update that I've been wanting to make with regards to education again. I know I talked a little bit about this before in one of my videos, Education in America Then and Now. But figured I'd include a few things that I've been finding here. I've been looking over some articles and found this one, school spending from 2001 to 2002. And this is nationwide. Gives the figures in dollars per student. And here it has Kansas listed as number 29 in the country. And we're spending in 2001 $7,052 per student. So, and another New York Times article here. It's titled "The Highest Per Pupil Spending in the U.S." and New York State spent about $14,000 per student, more than any other state in the nation, back in 2005. And then I have an article here by the Wichita Eagle, and I'll go ahead and read to you from this section called Total Per Student Aid. Another way to derive cost per student is to take all funding to Kansas schools, about $5.5 billion in state, local, and federal aid, and divide it by the total number of students. This year's estimated total per student cost is $12,225. which is about 26% above what schools had to spend in 2005, according to the Kansas State Department of Education. Using the 26% funding increased figure, the Kansas Policy Institute survey found voters were less willing to pay higher taxes than they would be had school money remained flat or decreased. The survey asked 600 voters statewide about their perceptions of school funding. For the most part, folks are not aware of funding amounts, said Bob Ross of the Research Partnership, the company that conducted the survey. When the information is provided, they have a different view. I would bet they do. Moving on, though, the $12,225 figure can be misleading because it includes money restricted to building maintenance and construction, which isn't available to schools to educate students, said Jones, the Wichita Schools CFO. I wouldn't call it misleading. We are spending that much money to maintain the public school system, regardless of how well it's spent to educate the students. And, I should mention that this whole period covered is right when I was going through school. I guess I should say I graduated in 2007, so we're spending more now than we were when I was going through high school, but I would be willing to speculate that the quality of education hasn't improved much since, according to what I've heard from some kids working on my campaign who have recently been in public schools. And I would say it doesn't really warrant the increase, and I'm wondering what exactly we're getting out of this increased funding. I know I have a lot of controversial opinions on education, especially the public education system, and most people simply don't want to hear anything about trimming the fat on one of their sacred cash cows. So basically the teachers and their lobbies have us all by the throat right now. Really, I would make an appeal to people's common sense on this matter and ask that you examine every other aspect of modern life here in America, every other endeavor in American industry or in American social productivity, or just in general technological advances. For example, take any other part of modern life and compare it to what it used to be 100 years ago. The military 100 years ago, men were still riding horses and using bolt-action rifles. Today, they've got tanks, bombs, machine guns, you name it. And farming 100 years ago, people were pulling plows across a field with horse teams. Today they have giant farming machines, tractors. They can mow down miles and miles of fields in just a few days worth of work, or a few weeks. But when it comes to education, despite all these great advances in technology, the basic formula 100 years ago was students sitting in rows behind desks in a classroom facing a blackboard. Well, today it's students sitting in rows behind desks facing a marker board. So we're moving up, aren't we? Well, we've got all of these massive, 100 years ago, they had telegraphs. Today we have mobile phones and iPhones, and you can access the internet on your phone. At the very least, we could provide each student with a computer, and that would cost a few $100 to $1,000 or $2,000 if you really wanted the top of the line product. But really, this all just shines a glaring light on the inefficiency and the backward operations of our public schooling system and our modern view of education in general. I guarantee that if parents had to manage their children's schooling at a local level, at a community level, and they found out they were spending $12,000 a year for each student, there would be a major uproar. In fact, I don't think it would be possible to spend that amount of money. So, once again, my brother's kids reading far above their reading level for their age, and his expenses on their education were basically probably about $600 for a laptop computer and $5 for a library card. That's going to last them multiple years, many years worth of spending. So right there makes me question if we couldn't just come up with online programs there. That way students would be able to have access to the best teachers basically anytime, anywhere. And if we wanted to have some kind of community institutionalizing of it, we could have the community, all the parents in any given community, pool their money together to rent a building, not necessarily a huge building like the ones we use, these giant fortresses that are called public schools, but they could rent a building. They could each pay for a computer for their child. They could each fund a school lunch, or they could send food with their child to this building. And then they could pay a studies director to basically keep all the kids on task in front of their computer. They could study for a few hours per day, complete whatever coursework they had to do online. They could have reading assignments, and the parents could vote on a reading list rather than just having some committee of strangers from the Department of Education deciding how to construct a textbook and what they want to put in or leave out of that textbook. So overall, I think it would be a far better experience for the children, and far more economical for the parents. More importantly, they could educate their children for just a few years under that kind of a system. They'd probably learn the equivalent or more than what they would learn in a standard public education system running for 12 years. And then, after this, however long they want their children to spend in this studies program, they could then spend their money individually, or even pool it together if they wanted to, and hire instructors for a technical course or for a trade school. And they could send their children off to learn these practical skills when they're close to adult age. And then once they are legally adults, they can enter the workforce and already be working and paying their way through college if they want to, or saving for college, or just maybe buying a house and paying it off in a fairly